I think in a lot of ways I was raised like an outdoor pet. We're all very independent and very interested in what each person is doing themselves. And I don't really think that any of the people who raised me had the mindset that they were somehow giving me a set of values and preparing me for the world. That was my problem. You know, I spent the majority of my childhood in a barn with the animals. I learned to like being alone, and I had a wonderful life with my animals. And I would say the really, really important thing about that was really not what anybody taught me, but what just sort of happened was I could have been in a lot of trouble. I was too smart, I had too much energy, I was too curious. You remember, this is the 60s in California. There was a lot of opportunity to get into big time trouble. I knew I had to be responsible for myself, and I hate being dependent. I would say more than anything in the whole world. I can work on my cars, you know, I can program the TV, I can sew my own clothes, I just hate being dependent more than anything in the whole world. And it was really good because I knew I had to provide for myself. And so I kind of looked at my 2 years of college as, okay, that was what you wanted to do. Now, what are you going to do to support yourself for the rest of your life? I got into Claremont Graduate School, and there I met this absolutely dynamite young professor who was into quantitative research methods. And within about 6 months, I was running a computer facility, because that's where the money was. Cisco just sort of happened. Eventually, the Skunk Works, that was the time-sharing Ethernet at Stanford, just one day the administration gave up on their broadband and their IBMs, and just the next day the Stanford internet was our internet. So we just started making things that could hook together, and it worked. We had been very naive when we had taken venture money, and Len and I both walked into, after financing this company for 3 years, we walked into a 4-year vesting contract with no employment agreement. One day, John Morgridge came into my office and fired me. And Len and I just decided, okay, we're done. And Len wanted to move to Seattle. I had no interest in moving to Seattle. So I stayed in California for a while, and I started Urban Decay. And then I kind of started realizing that, why was I in the city? I want to go back east. Len and I had been back east doing trade shows for Cisco, for government contracts and stuff, for a long time. And to me, Virginia really seemed like the best combination of sort of English civility and people being socialized. And so it was the grass and the green and the water and the life that's here because there's enough water and the flowers, and there's just so much life here. And from the moment I got here, years and years before I moved here, I just thought this would be the place to be. I am a good person. I really try to do good things. It's a very important part of my life every day to sort of leave God's earth in a little bit better shape than I found it. I mean, even if it's just picking up a can on the side of the road and recycling it. I think that the farm was kind of a beacon for sustainable agriculture. I can show people by example that you don't have to treat animals this way, and that you can raise really good food. And I'm very proud of my food. I'll put my food up against anybody's food. We are a net carbon sequestering farm here. We're no-till. We've been no-till for 25 years. And in addition to raising really, really good food sustainably, we've helped bring back a half a dozen breeds that were on the brink of extinction. And there are now about 800 shires in the world. When I started, there were probably 2,500, and we just had 2 foals, so now there's 802. So I would say the animals and our success bringing the breeds back and doing it in a way that showed people that working with the land and working with evolution, working with what God has put here, is really how we need to be looking at our food system. I started an organization called VOPCO, which was the Virginia Organic Producers and Consumers Association, and that ran for a few years, but then I got too busy and couldn't really take care of it. I've been very involved in the animal organizations, the various shelters and Leesburg Cat Coalition. Mostly I've been involved in animals and farming. I've really tried to focus on preserving land that was in a kind of a critical place. We've been, I think, very successful in saving farmland that, in a way, was in a kind of a strategically important position to sort of put a stake in the ground, and it would be very hard for the builders to kind of ooze around it. I feel that my life has been really obscenely blessed. I mean, I don't know anybody who's been luckier than I have been. I'm so lucky I get kind of crabby when I'm not lucky. But to me, it sounds very hackneyed, but it's a way of giving back. I have something that, especially the main house, the first thing I hosted here was a benefit for the PEC, and the second one was a benefit for the Warrenton Animal Shelter. And the house had never been, the PEC had their event when the house was completely derelict. The first time the house had been open after it had been restored was this benefit for the Warren County Animal Shelter, and they wanted $37,000 to buy a hospital van so that, if there was a dog that was injured on the road, or, they were doing a spay and neuter clinic, they would have a way to go out. Warrenton's a big county. And so their goal was to raise $37,000, and we raised $147,000. So it turns out to be a really good fundraising venue. We do amazing things as a team. I think part of it is that I never ask anybody to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. On this farm, it's sir and ma'am, and when it's convenient, and if you have the time, and we're very respectful of one another, and we're very kind to one another. It's not only a good place to be an animal here, it's a good place to be a person here. And I think that humanity is and wanting to do good. I've inspired, I think, some younger people who now are my treasures on the farm, to do the right thing, to believe in sustainability. And I think kids believe in sustainability. Farming is not for the faint of heart, but we give each other heart, and we all know that we pick ourselves up, we learn, we talk about it, and we move strongly forward.